Hey guys, good morning. God bless. Hope everybody's doing well. So this video is about Iran and what's going on with Iran and how it pertains to biblical prophecy as the Lord is directing me on this information. I'm not a prophet, not anything, but this is what I was shown, and I felt led to do a video on it. And as always, take it to the Lord in prayer, see what He tells you, and hopefully it will confirm what I'm showing you here. This video is going to get into a lot of different areas. It has the potential to have a part two. I don't know if that's where it's going to go, but there's several places that this can go. It's going to show how Alexander the Great, Trump, goats, Elam, Susa, the first rider on the horse, Elam, all these different things are connected. And as the Lord was walking me through it, once the war began, um, it was very eye opening for me. And so I did my usual. I prayed about it, and more information kept coming. So I decided to compile it and put it in a video for you all. Please don't get your prophecy from the daily news. Read His Word. I know it's tempting to sit and watch the news of what's going on. I try to just curb myself. I look in the morning to see if anything happened overnight that should be made aware of. But I just go throughout the day and just pray. And that's the peace that surpasses all understanding. This is all in God's hands. No matter what we see, what happens, what they put in front of the news, it's all in God's hands anyway. And I just take comfort in that. I don't need to get concerned with it and become a busybody with it. So I just, pray over it and ask Him, and he guides me. I get most of my news off of YouTube, and again, very choosy about what I listen to. I think it's actually quite astonishing that this event has not woke up a lot more people. I figured when it first kicked off, especially on a blood moon, that this would be a big eye opener for people, and it's not. It's really not. It really bothers me because it's so in your face of what we're doing, and what I see happening is pride again taking hold of this nation. And we're gonna beat Iran back to the dark ages and this and that, and it's just it's like, come on, people, don't you see how important this war is? Even if you don't read the Bible, I mean, they are. It is a big conflict, especially in a region where oil is so pronounced, and the export of oil through Kuwait and Iraq, right there in the Persian Gulf. I mean, it's just very unstable. I mean, that's one of three ways we can get oil from the Middle East, and I believe this is how the wars are going to begin, because all those areas are going to be cut off. And I've explained that in other videos, how there's the there's the Persian Gulf, there's the Red Sea, and there's the Mediterranean with the Suez Canal. And they'll shut off the Red Sea and they'll shut off the Persian Gulf, and the only way will be through the Mediterranean. And guess what sits at the head of the Mediterranean? It's Israel. And anyway, so just pay attention, guys. So where do we see Iran in the Bible? Well, it's in Ezekiel 38, in the so-called Gog-Magog war. We also see it, we don't see it in Psalms 83, which is another conflict that happens with Israel's surrounding nations. And we also see it in Jeremiah 49, but it's a portion of Iran called Elam. It's not the complete Persian area as it's addressed in Gog Magog. It's addressed as Persia. Here it's addressed as Elam. So, I'm not sure how this pertains, if we're looking at Elam right now, how this pertains to Ezekiel 38 and 39. I'm not sure if they come back. It would appear that this is a judgment on Elam from God using the United States. And that doesn't mean we're going to get out of this scot-free. I don't believe that, not for a minute. I believe this is going to cause a vacuum, so to speak, and China and Russia will be drawn in. The hooks of the jaws they'll be drawn into this conflict because of oil. Maybe, I don't know. These are just thoughts that I'm thinking. So, and of course, we're a big piece of that. Russia has had issues with us, China, and then you have Taiwan. This could trigger all of this to draw those countries into war with our United States, and then we'll be in a pickle, so to speak. Okay. At the time of this document, when it was made, there were 6 members of our military in the news that were reported deceased as far as our losses. I think this number is extremely low. I don't think that's the case. I think they're keeping a lot of information from us as far as casualties are concerned and what's actually happening over there. The largest hospital outside the United States, U.S. military hospital outside the United States, just halted all labor and delivery services amid the Iran war. Now, I see this in 2 ways. I see this in a spiritual way. They're trying to stop the labor pains from happening, and they're trying to stop the delivery of the man-child from happening. I see that as a possible spiritual message. But as it is, at face value, this is huge. I've been to this hospital before. It's almost like a not a Piedmont, but it's just a huge campus. I mean, I think they can treat over 1,000 casualties. There's barracks there for soldiers. There's beautiful places for them to stay. There's parks. It's more than just a hospital. It's a campus. All right. For them to do that, for the military personnel that are stationed there, you got Air Force there. That's huge. You have a lot of also Navy personnel there working in the medical field. So for them to shut that down and put the delivery services on the Germans to do that and the German hospitals, that's a pretty big thing. I've never heard of this happening in my time in the military. So I don't know if this is in preparation for receiving casualties, or if it's because, when Iran struck Bahrain, if they took too many casualties there and now are trying to backfill them at this hospital. I don't know for sure. But with Afghanistan pretty much closed down, Iraq closed down, the casualties aren't coming in like they used to. So for them to shut this down, that kind of speaks volumes to me as to why they would do that. It says here's a medical memo that was put out. It says the medical center sent out a notice to halt those services at Landstuhl. That's the name of the hospital. Patients through a Tuesday memorandum that circulated on the unofficial Air Force Facebook page. The memo states that the closure of labor and delivery is due to the hospital's primary objective. Well, what's the primary objective? Critical combat care. To treat patients that are injured during training or combat operations throughout Europe, Africa, Middle East, etc. So, either as a precautionary, but I mean, I can't see them having to do that as a precautionary when they can already accept, up to thousands of patients. They have the best care in that area for our soldiers. It doesn't get any better than Landstuhl, so I don't know what's going on. I will say this: the military can control a service member's social media. Now, when I was deployed, this was 2005, I was having a conversation with our intel officer, and I was like, well, how can they enforce, a soldier putting something on Facebook, as far as, we were worried that, hey, I'm going out tonight, I'm going to this area, this is a bad area, I don't know what's going to happen, messaging a loved one or, making a post. And even in 2005, my intel officer says we already have everyone's username and password without their consent. And if we need to, we can get on their Facebook, destroy that post, and then put that soldier under punishment, for UCMJ. So if that was the thing back then, what do they have now to cut off media or social media to their families? And is what they're saying being heavily guarded as far as casualty counts and operations? I think that's a very, very distinct possibility. So just, now that we're kind of getting into it, we're 3 weeks into it, they have to allow those soldiers some time to communicate back home. I would be very interested to see what they say. So if you know of anyone, please comment. If you've heard anything, please comment. I'm not going to jump to conclusions, but I will say I think it's more than what we know. I just a gut feeling, call it whatever you want. But I think that our casualty count and what's happening is more than what we know. And it's the history of war. They've done this throughout history. They did it in Vietnam. They did it, and it's usually at the on stages, of the very forefront, or when things ramp up, so to speak. So asking a question here, what do you make of this headline? What do you think of this? Military leaders say Iran war is so Trump can bring about Armageddon. If that isn't really stupid, I don't know what is. In my opinion, they are trying to push prophecy. They know the Bible. When I say they, I'm talking about the elite, the wicked kings of the world, the wicked rulers of the world, the bad tenants, the fallen angels, however you want to lump them all together. They want this to happen so they can have their golden age. They want their golden age. It's in all the messages that you see. The golden Trump Tower, serving golden French fries at McDonald's. Just all this stuff. And I've done videos on it, so before you ridicule, go check those out and look at them, because that's exactly what they want. They want their utopia, and they want it without Jesus. They don't want Jesus involved. They don't want Jesus a part of it. They want nothing to do with it. They don't care if you say God. They don't care if you say Lord. But they do not want Jesus involved. And I'm going to show you this later on and how this is going to play out. But they want this false utopia. They want the mark of the beast, which is going to be yoking yourself with the demonic, which, of course, at the beginning will be great, because then everybody will want that mark, and they'll feel so great. They'll have so much enlightenment, and then that demon will show its true colors eventually, and you'll see what happens. This world will end up, people will end up killing each other just in the street for no reason, whatever. But this false utopia is what they want. They have to have this peace plan that will come about through the Antichrist. And you're going to see that here in a little bit as we continue the study. I forgot to add, they don't want the Christians here either. So, because we get in the way. We bring Jesus. You have to have Jesus to get to heaven. They don't want that. They want to go around that. So when I say they don't want Jesus as well, they don't want Christianity either. That you can have any religion you want, but not Christianity. All right. Anyway, that's what I was thinking. They're trying to push this to bring it about quicker than what it's supposed to. And I happened to see a video by Latter Rain 333 here, and I just looked at the title, and as I was kind of mulling over this study, the title says, prophecy will happen, or something to that effect. Prophecy will happen on my time, not their time. So I just took that as a confirmation that, he's trying to bring about Armageddon. Of course, this was the blood moon day, so, I mean, they're trying to force the hand of God, and it's not going to happen. So a while ago, I started looking at all the wars in the Bible, all the different conflicts, and the Moab and Jordan, and where's Gaza, Syria, Damascus, uh, Gog Magog, all those different wars. And I was like, well, what's the trigger of all these things? And I got to the point of where I thought the trigger was Isaiah 17, but I was like, that's a bold. When Isaiah 17 kicks off and you nuke a whole city of Damascus, there's nothing up until that point. I just didn't find it as the trigger, possibly, but I didn't know. But this really came to my mind, and really caught my attention, was about Elam. And for those that don't know, Elam is a portion of Iran. You can kind of think of it as a state, like say, or a region. This is the Carolinas or whatever. If this was the U.S., so it's kind of a portion of Iran. And what I find interesting is the Lord specifically talks about Iran, or I'm sorry, Elam, specifically addresses Elam. So it's Western Iran. It kind of goes up in here. I believe Susa is the capital of that area, or the biggest city in that area, and it kind of goes down through here. So, it's always getting hit by earthquakes. This area is specifically this right here, and I believe it's pronounced Bashur, and it's a nuclear powerhouse. It's a nuclear facility here. I don't believe it's a weaponized facility. I do believe it's an energy facility. I could be wrong, but it keeps getting hit with bigger and bigger earthquakes. And I want you to kind of keep that in the back of your mind, because this plays out into Jeremiah 49. And if this gets hit, let's just say this gets destroyed by a catastrophic event, the whole Persian Gulf would be flooded with radiation, and it would shut down this whole area, which would leave, like I said earlier, the Red Sea as the only import for trade. And what sits at the Red Sea? Well, you have Yemen, for one, which attacks ships constantly through there like a hornet's nest. And you also have Mecca that sits near the Red Sea, which could be Babylon, which also gets nuclear, gets hit. And I believe that's from them. And that would shut down the Red Sea, again, leaving only the Mediterranean. Thinking out loud here, but that's a possibility. I just can't unsee that. So again, Bashar nuclear facility. 30 deaths reported there when that earthquake hit. So it's an interesting facility. It was inaugurated on 12 September, and I think that was 2011, but that would have been the 11th of September in America. We're a day behind them, essentially. So interesting. It's partnered with Russia, which again could draw them into the war. So when you go to the website and you look and you start reading about it, and I've included the document in the folder there for the Google Drive, but you read about it, it's very Russian partnered. Like they put money, they brought scientists, directors, and along with Iranian personnel, they built this facility. There was an agreement made and approved under an International Atomic Energy. Russia will be responsible for operating the plant, supplying the fuel, managing the spent fuel. So there was this partnership. And I'm not sure why they put it there and why Russia really has interest in it. But interesting. Kind of interesting. This plant is located at the junction of 3 tectonic plates, hence the earthquakes. So the Lord says he will break the bow of Elam. Doesn't say he will use another country, but we know the Lord's wording, meaning I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. That is he going to use another nation? Is he just going to do it on his own? We don't know. But that's what the text says. Behold, I will break the bow of Elam, chief of their might. And upon Elam I will bring forth the four winds from the four corners of heaven. I always think of that as like an explosion. Maybe not. We will scatter them towards all those winds, and there will be no nation. So every nation in the world will have someone from Elam come and stay because of the devastation that's happened there. I'll bring evil upon them. I will send the sword after them. Okay? Till I have consumed them. I will set my throne in Elam, meaning a revival or his mindset. They will look to Christ and destroy hence the king and the princess, says the Lord. This is interesting. We've already had one king destroyed in this conflict, possibly the second one. So this is happening. The king of Elam and the princess, says the Lord, I will destroy. Now, that's the majority of the text of it right there. But break the bow of Elam. He will break the bow. And then there's, in the past latter days, I will bring again the captivity of Elam. So we have a lot of things going on here. The Lord specifies Elam and not Persia. Ezekiel makes note of Persia specifically. This is a specific portion of Iran. Extensive history. Susa, the capital. So Susa is known as Shushan in the book of Esther, which is, of course, about the story of Purim. And again, you should probably read the book of Esther again if you haven't already read it. Start on a blood moon, which was also Purim, and here we are in Elam. And if you know that story, it's about a young woman who's a queen who goes to the king to petition for her people. So this is all right away. Just based upon the one word Elam, we're looking at several different chapters in the Bible as well as a whole book. So, and not to mention the arrows, which we'll get to later with King David and when he goes into hiding. But so this there's a lot of connections here. In other words, Daniel 8:2, according to these texts, Nehemiah lived in Susa during the Babylon captivity. Esther became queen, married to not Xerxes, but King Xerxes, and he saves the Jews from genocide, from completely being wiped out during that time period. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. He also refers to himself, I will break the bow, the possibility of an earthquake striking Elam. Let's just say that this all happens in the heat of battle. Could Israel or USA get blamed for that destruction? Especially if it's a huge earthquake and you can't tell, and bombs are being dropped and fighting's being done. Is there a possibility that USA or Israel could be blamed for nuking Elam when in fact it was an earthquake? We don't know. But Israel does have a Samson option, and right now with conventional warheads being used so much, it may take, with this time elapsing and all these resources being used of ballistic missiles, could Israel default to their Samson option, which is nuclear weapons as a last resort? They have a depleted ballistic missile problem right now, as well as the shield not really blocking anything anymore. I don't know if that's because it's, I don't know. I don't know what's caused that, but probably hacking. I would assume, but I don't know. So and then they come in with this Samson option and destroy the Elam area or the Bushwar nuclear facility. Then we've got, you know, then you can see why all the world will hate Israel or USA. So there's a couple different possibilities that could happen out of this. The Samson option, I thought, was an interesting twist. So you had the strong Israelite in the book of Judges who brought down the whole temple of the Philistines by pushing over 2 pillars. The Masonic Society has a symbol of 2 pillars that, could be an eye-opening event. So when the nuke hits that facility and we have the Persian Gulf flooded with radioactivity, the lies are basically, the gig is up. The lies are over. They will definitely turn to Christ, and many will probably be brought out of the system of lives at that point, I would hope. So could that be the Masonic temple, which was the Philistine temple, to open up the eyes and ears of the people? So a couple of different things going on. It gets a little hard to keep them all straight. But so again, we have an earthquake that could pose as a nuclear hit from the nations that are hitting it right now. Or we could actually have a nuclear hit and this begins to happen. The whole system starts to fall. They have to get rid of the old system for the new system. So that could be a possibility, distinctly a good possibility. So will the Lord use Israel to break that bow? Personally, I don't know, but I am certain it will take a devastating action of mankind to look up and realize the real lies with real eyes. So Trump has been associated as Alexander the Great and also the GOAT. This has been in headlines. Israel has called President Trump Alexander the Great of our time. And he's also called himself, as well as others have called him, the GOAT, especially on the day that the war began. And that takes us to Daniel 8. So we have this goat and this ram fighting it out. So Daniel in chapter 8 is actually located in Elam at Susa when he gets a vision. And this vision is, before stood me a ram, a river with 2 horns. Okay, those are the 2 kings, I believe, because these horns are broken later, or one comes up higher than the other. I saw the ram pushing west, north, and south, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was any that could deliver out of his hand. Now, initially when I read this, I'm like, well, how is Iran pushing those directions? And then it kind of dawns on me that, well, first off, during the Iraq War, they had a counterinsurgency in Iraq, fighting the U.S., and taking advantage of the war by causing serious casualties with their advanced weaponry that they had. They also are not very friendly with their neighbors to the west, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Oman, Qatar, all those places. They cause grief using the Persian Gulf to export and import oil. They also control heavily that area, as well as the Yemen area. And it all comes down to Sunni and Shia, by the way. They're the Shia type, Muslim. There's the whole story behind all of that. But anyway, they are kind of the bully of that area. And they do push everybody around. I kind of did some searches on it, and yeah, they really do. There's a lot of conflict. If you just Google relations, Iran relations with blank, and you can see a lot of them, a lot of countries do not particularly like Iran. So it is kind of a bully that kind of does snort around and go to these different areas. So Trump says U.S. Israel strikes have turned Iran from bully to loser in the Middle East. Now, it's obviously childish, but regardless, it is kind of true. Bully the Middle East for years was labeled Bully the Middle East for engaging in proxy wars targeting Israel, other Arab states, also financing terrorism in areas that surround Israel, and supplying them with weapons. The U.S. has called Iran the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. This conflict spreads to the oil-rich Arab nations as well as to the West. So that is true. And here we go with the he-goat. And I was considering, and behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had the two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran into him with the fury and his power. And I saw him come close to the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram and broke his two horns. So those are the two kings that are going to fall. One's already fallen, if not the second one as well. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him. There's none that could deliver him. So Trump is the goat. He is the one-horned goat, not two, that pushes to the east and defeats the ram. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great, as we know Trump is. I don't condone him, but that's where we're at right now. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. So, somewhere during this conflict, that horn is going to break. And something is going to happen, just like the other two horns that broke. And for it came up 4 notable horns to the 4 winds of heaven. So 4 kings will come out of the broken one king on the he-goat. And out of one of those horns came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great toward the south, towards the east, and towards the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the hosts of heaven, and cast down some of the hosts of the stars on the ground, and stamped upon them. He magnified himself even to the prince of hosts, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down, and a host was given to him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and practiced and prospered. So, out of the one horn comes 4 major horns, and out of one of these major horns comes forth a little horn. Okay, that wax exceedingly great. The great horn was broken. Kings would allude to Trump being broken or out of the picture sometime during the trail end of this conflict. The text reads, 4 notable horns replaced the great horn that was broken. So what happens? Well, if it follows, and I believe it does, the path of Alexander the Great, maybe we can expect to see this. The first horn, Alexander, is on his way to Susa, and he has a lot of his chief governors killed. So like Trump, he has a lot of people that he's removed from office. Okay, their political careers are pretty much over. He ends up dying in 323 BC. And he dies in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, which I thought was interesting, from suspected poisoning. The Diochi were 4 rival generals. Their families and friends of Alexander the Great, who fought for control over his empire after his death in 323. Here are the 4 horns that come forth from the broken one horn. The most notable was Ptolemy, Antigonus, Cassander, and Seleucus. It is the horn of Seleucus that brings forth the Maccabean revolt in Israel during the Hellenistic period. Okay. So to sum this up, for those of you that have never looked at any of this, okay, these horns are kings in the Bible. So if this one horn, and Trump is likened to Alexander the Great, so he's going to follow that same path. The he-goat that runs over, hits the ram, which is Iran, hits that ram. Two horns are broken. Two kings are dead. And now this goat or this ram is subdued. In doing so, that one horn breaks. When that one horn breaks, four notable horns will come forward. Now, are they going to be four kings? The Bible says four horns. I believe they're going to be four kings. Some videos I've watched have said it's going to cause four different vacuums. One being, the oil-rich nations will pull out of their money out of America. I don't know. I think it's going to be four notable people that come up in his absence. And they're going to each have an agenda. That's what the text says. So we'll see. But of those four, one of those has a little horn come out of it, which will be the Antichrist ruler, which is known in the Bible as the little horn. Okay. So during this time period, this from Seleucus, this dynasty, this monarch time frame, they went through this Hellenistic period, which is this period of enlightenment. And we're going to kind of talk about that here in a minute. You can sum this up easy in one sentence, essentially. But it talks about where it was, how, it was founded by this general here, a successor to Alexander the Great, divided the empire, and boom, that was his portion of it. So throughout history, the Seleucid dominion included parts of East Asian, the Hellenistic culture attracted a large number of immigrants from Greece who encouraged to form an elite under-ruling dynasty. And it reached its height under Antiochus III, whose son was Antiochus Epiphanes, who ruled that portion of the Israel area during that time frame. He's the little horn that slaughtered the pig on the altar in Jerusalem. So that's where we get this. So if the pattern follows, the Antichrist will come from one of these horns, one of those four people that rise up during that time frame. Okay. So this horn or king, that little horn, would rise up, rule over modern day Israel. This is the result of the golden age of Athens. I mention this because this golden age is exactly what they are wanting. They are wanting this Greek Hellenistic life that once was, with a modern twist. Now, the flavor of the day. Let's talk about fallen angels' flavor of the day. So back then, the fallen angels came to the Greeks as gods. And you have Apollo, you have all these different gods, and they showed themselves, revealed themselves during this time period, offering wisdom, quote unquote, just like they did in the book of Enoch, just like they're doing now with the alien theme. They're going to come as visitors from outer space, sharing much wanted wisdom and knowledge and information, and they're going to come with all the miracles in the world. All we have to do is join their stupid club. Okay? So that's the modern twist. This happens repeatedly, as you can see. It's happening now. It happens then. And with them, just as we discussed with Samson, breaking the pillars, you have to destroy the old to make room for the new. Now, with the new will come a new covenant, which we'll discuss later. This little horn that rose up during this time was Antiochus Epiphanes, which we just mentioned. So, again, this is how they operate. All right. And this is actually from the Maccabees right here. So let's see here. Alexander reigned 12 years and he died. His servants bare rule, each one in his place. They all put on crowns upon themselves after he was dead. And so did their sons after them many years, and multiplied evils upon the earth. And there came forth out of them a sinful root, Antiochus Epiphanes, or a sinful horn, son of Antiochus the king, who had been hostage in Rome and reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days came forth out of Israel transgressors of the law, and persuaded many, saying, let's go make a covenant with the Greeks, all right, that are round about us. For since we were parted from them, many evils have befallen us. And saying was good in their eyes. So this is important. All right, persuaded many, saying, let's go make a covenant. Let's go take the mark of the beast so that we can have what they have. For they are round about us, for since we parted from them, many evils have befallen us. So Helen means light or shine, just like hell. They're trying to turn light into darkness, or darkness into light, which it's not. It's a false enlightenment. Solar deity. How many times have we seen this solar deity thing? False light brought by the fallen. The same tactics are used. They're just repackaged to fit the day and age. It would say that, if I could put it the simplest way, this would be what it would say. Of this golden age is when the fallen angels reveal themselves as gods to humanity in order to lead them into deeper corruption, evil devices, and the lack of dependency from our Lord and Father. Because we can become God on our own, and that's what they will sell, and that's what they sold. So we have a word in common here called bow. Bow means covenant. So we go back to Jeremiah 49. Bow. As I sat with the Lord and prayed over this, I began to wonder for the first horseman's bow, and also the bow mentioned in Jeremiah, and bow in the Old Testament, where I found Noah talk about the bow. And I believe this word bow means covenant, both a godly covenant and a wicked covenant. Okay? What they say up here, let us make a covenant with the Greeks. Gentiles and Greeks, synonymous. Okay. So you need to unlearn something, that the first horse is solely the Antichrist. It's not. This is I'll let you decide after you see the content. But both a godly covenant and a wicked covenant. First off, the rider of the white horse. Many Christians have speculated this rider is the Antichrist. That's not 100% correct. Consider this study from Tim Foster. So I got to give you like a 3-minute study here to convince you. So be open-minded. Jesus comes to collect his arrows, those who have made a covenant by sacrifice. All right, he's got a bow but no arrows, so he comes to collect them, the ones that have made a covenant by sacrifice. God comes, he does not keep silent. Before him is a devouring fire and a mighty tempest, so on earth that he may judge his people. But first the Lord will gather his people. Come, gather to me my faithful ones, who made a covenant with me by sacrifice. See Romans 12, presenting your body as a living sacrifice. So this is out of Psalms 50. Okay. Psalms 144. Bow your heavens, O Lord, and come down. Touch the mountains so they smoke. Flash forth lightning and scatter. Send out your arrows and rout them. Arrows go out ahead of the Lord. Stretch out your hand from on high. Rescue and deliver me. I will sing a new song to you, O Lord. The 144 only sing a new song. No one can learn that song except the 144. Psalms 18. Thick darkness under his feet, rode upon a chariot and flew, came swiftly on the wings of the wind. He made darkness his covering, thick clouds. Jumped down to 14. He sent out his arrows and scattered them. The arrows go out ahead of the Lord. He flashed forth lightning and routed them. Habakkuk 3. When you rode on your horse, you stripped the sheath from your bow, calling many arrows. You sent out the salvation of your people for the salvation of your anointed. You crushed the head of the house of the wicked. Psalm 45. Your arrows are sharp. Ride out victoriously on your horse for the cause of truth and meekness. Jeremiah 3. Behold, he comes upon the clouds like chariots, like the whirlwind. His horses are swifter than eagles. Woe to us, we are ruined at the noise of horseman and archer who has a bow. Every city takes flight. Okay. There's many, many other ones. You can go to Tim Foster's page and take a look. This one's one of my favorites here. And the Lord hath called me from the womb. The Antichrist didn't call you. All right, the Lord called you from the womb. From the bowels of my mother, he hath made mention of my name. He does not care about your name. All right, this is all Jesus. And he hath made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand, he's hid me. Okay, we're going to talk about hiding here later. He has made me a polished shaft. In his quiver, he has hid me. And he said unto me, you are my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified. All right? There's two sides to this. The Antichrist is coming to pose as Jesus. Okay? There's a duality here that you need to pay very close attention to. Okay. So notice in the scriptures above, there's hidden arrows in his quiver. All right? Elam means hidden. Okay? Elam means hidden. It's written right here. The name Elam comes from Hebrew, means to be hidden or concealed. I thought there was something else I'm going to talk about here. Hold on. Okay. Oh, when David goes into hiding, what do they use? An archer. Okay. And the arrows are sent out. And the little boy goes and collects them. That's also connected to this. Be still, be hidden. Safety. Okay. Again, we're going to go back to Daniel 8. Magnified himself. Prince's daily sacrifice was taken away. And the place of his sanctuary was cast down. He cast down the truth. In the latter time of the kingdom, transgressors come. He have a fierce countenance and dark sentences. And his power shall be mighty, but not his own power. He shall destroy wonderfully. He shall prosper. He shall practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Through his policy he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. He shall magnify himself in his heart. And by peace he will destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but shall be broken without hand. By peace shall destroy many. We're going to get into that. So by peace he will destroy many. We notice the white horse rider has a bow and no arrows. Jesus, we see, collects his arrows to make war against his enemy. That's what the 144 will do. His army, his people. Those that have committed to him in a covenant of sacrifice. What will the Antichrist do? He's going to mimic that, but he's going to collect arrows under a peace plan. Okay? After the nations' wars, okay, we will see all the nations bringing their weapons to the Antichrist. Okay? All these swords are the missiles. Okay? Now, why they didn't use arrows, I don't know. But they have all these swords wrapped up in their nation's flags, and they're taking them to the Antichrist. Which right here shows him banging the sword into a pruning hook, which we'll get into. They know their Bible. They're creating this false peace plan. You can see it in this banner, peace. All right? Every nation bringing their weapons to the Antichrist. World War III will be quickly. It'll be harsh, but it'll be over quickly. And then the nations will establish this plan, and they will bring all their weapons to him. Notice on the center, they've turned all their weapons into agricultural tools. This is right out of the Bible. This is their false golden age, trying to mimic Jesus' 1,000-year reign. This is a plow right here. And this is a pruning hook. And the judge he shall judge the nations and rebuke many. He shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation again, neither shall they war any more. See, he's bringing this peace plan together. Notice the bow in the sky, the covenant. That's exactly what he's doing. He's fulfilling or making this covenant with them. So that they can have their golden age. This is that chakra, all right, for the plant, the third eye, all right. This will be the mark, this new enlightenment, this new beginning. Even this bird right here is symbolic. This bird is called a Quetzalcoatl, right, which goes back to Quetzalcoatl. Let's just look at Quetzalcoatl, for example. It's called a Quetzal, named after the deity Quetzalcoatl, the human sacrificing, consuming god of the Aztecs. Large, brilliant tail feather. Means to stand up, used to refer to an upstanding plume of feathers, which is the feathered serpent. This is Satan all over again. This is the garden all over again, this feathered serpent. The god of wisdom, learning, and intelligence. Again, this is the beginning of the golden age. Then you have this chakra, serpent's power. The serpent power, a rough transition. So yeah, the 6 chakras. I don't know much about this, but I just know it's not good. So if we go back to Genesis and talk about Noah and the bow in the heavens, it's his covenant with you. I will make a covenant. I will set my bow in the cloud. It's a token for a covenant. Another thing, so we have this rainbow up here that comes, right? I know most of us have heard about the northern lights being part of Jesus's return when we see those northern lights to get ready. Again, that's, part of that bow. The bow in the cloud. So I would have you look at Noahide laws, because that's what they're going to use as probably part of their covenant. So if you get on the YouTube and look up Noahide laws, it does not mention Jesus. It mentions God. It mentions God or Lord, but it does not mention Jesus. They don't want him involved. That's why his name is so powerful. They don't want anything to do with it. But anyway, that's the study, guys. Hope it makes sense to you and it helps you understand what's going on. And God bless you guys. Take care.